Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move this motion on recording the thanks of the House on Kenya's attempt at the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission. This is a co-sponsored motion, Honorable Speaker, by myself and the Leader of Minority. Honorable Speaker, recalling that the African Union, the successor of the Organization of the African Unity, OAU, was launched in the year 2002 as a continental body consisting of the 55 member states that make up the countries of the African continent, with a vision of creating an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. And aware that the African Union Commission, established as the secretariat responsible for the day-to-day operations and activities of the African Union, is headed by the chairperson elected by the heads of state and government from member states. And further recalling that on the 27th February 2024, Kenya formally announced that the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, EGH, would be vying for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, building on his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from the year 2018 to 2023. Further appreciating that in recognition of the immense Pan-African ideals embodied in the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, his dedication and leadership in advancing the cause of the African continent through various initiatives and positions held over the years, including his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from the year 2018 to 2023, His Excellency the President endorsed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as Kenya's candidate for the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Noting that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga's candidacy for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission was not only his personal ambition, but also as a symbol of Kenya's deep commitment to the goals of the African Union and its desire to actively participate in shaping the continent's future. Commending the government of Kenya, led by His Excellency the President William Ruto, for the Pan-African campaign in support of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, reinforced by Kenya's commitment to regional and continental integration and cooperation, and guided by Kenya's foreign policy. Further commending the remarkable achievement by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for emerging the runner-up in the election of the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15th February 2025 in Addis Ababa. Recognizing the need to sustain Kenya's growing prominence on the continental stage and advocacy for a more united, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa, in resonance with the aspirations of millions of Africans across the continent who seek to see the continent empowered to chart its own course in the global arena. Now, therefore, Honorable Speaker, this House records its thanks to His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, CGH President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, for endorsing the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, as Kenya's candidate for election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC, and for coordinating the continental campaign in support of his candidacy. Two, this House expresses its profound thanks to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, for demonstrating his unwavering commitment to the service of Africa by offering himself as Kenya's candidate for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, for his leadership in advancing Pan-African unity, for his dedication to the development and integration of the African continent, and for his distinguished attempt at this election, in which he emerged as the runners-up. And three, this House records its congratulations to His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf for his election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15 February 2025. Honorable Speaker, it's a long motion, Honorable Speaker, But even as long as it is, we are seeking to do three things, Honorable Speaker. One is to record our thanks to the President for his dedicated support and his very vigorous campaign across the continent for the campaign for the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as the chairperson of the AUC Commission. Two is to congratulate and express our thanks as a House and on behalf of the Kenyan people to His Excellency the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, for demonstrating that unwavering commitment to the service of the African continent. Honorable Speaker, we cannot say it enough that the dedication with which we saw the Right Honorable Prime Minister and His Excellency the President William Ruto work together throughout the campaign, and not failing to mention our dedicated foreign mission officers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, led by the Principal Secretary, Sing'oei Korir, and His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, who dedicated immense time and resources across the continent in campaigning for the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Honorable Speaker, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga needs no introduction to anybody in the continent. He is a man whose ideals as a Pan-Africanist need no introduction to anybody in the continent, and indeed, we must take this opportunity also to thank the many nations across the continent that stood not just with the nation and the Republic of Kenya in this campaign, but also with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the Pan-Africanist par excellence, in the campaigns and the election in Addis Ababa over the weekend. Honorable Speaker, let me also take this opportunity as we congratulate the winner of this election, Honorable Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, who is also a good African from our neighboring country in Djibouti. As we congratulate him, Honorable Speaker, I cannot fail to note with immense gratitude again to Prime Minister Raila Odinga that as much as he was leading all through, especially the first, second, and almost the third vote, even at a time when he was leading, when he got to the sixth vote, Honorable Speaker, after the sixth vote, he opted in the spirit of Pan-Africanism not to take that assembly through another round of campaigning and elections, because the Right Honorable Raila Odinga had the choice to fight on. And because there were many people who were supporting him, then our brother Mohamed Yusuf probably would not have gotten the 2/3. But the former Prime Minister opted, instead of taking Africa through the rigors of waiting for another few months to get into another campaigning season, he opted to allow the assembly to go ahead and vote and see if the person who was leading then in that round could achieve the 2/3 that was required for the chairperson seat. And that is how Ali Yusuf Mohammed was elected as the chairperson of AUC. Therefore, I want to congratulate the Right Honorable Prime Minister for that commitment, for his dedication, for that spirit of Pan-Africanism, for knowing that Africa and our unity as a continent is paramount, and putting Africa and Pan-Africanism ahead of his own personal interests, and putting the interests of the continent and the unity of the continent ahead of his interests, Honorable Speaker. And it is commendable. That is the spirit in every competition, that there will be a winner, there will be a loser. Raila Odinga did not leave Addis Ababa as a loser. He left Addis Ababa as a winner who has exemplified his leadership in the African continent and in the world. And Honorable Speaker, we commend him. We note our thanks as a House and on behalf of the Kenyan people to the Right Honorable Prime Minister for that commitment to the African nation. And I want to encourage him to continue serving not just Kenya, but the African continent and the world with the same commitment and dedication that he has shown over the years, Honorable Speaker. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Speaker, you know, is not just a Kenyan leader, is a continental leader. As we have said in this motion, he has served in continental bodies. And I know in the future, he could even serve in world bodies, Honorable Speaker, because The world needs his experience, the world needs his ideals and his leadership in many aspects, as we do need them in this country, Honorable Speaker, as he continues to serve us and the world, and we wish him well. We wish the Honorable Mohamed Yusuf well in his service. Let him understand that we are all in a competitive election, and the people of Kenya remain committed to the ideals of the African Union and to the integration of the African continent as one united continent. Even with the regional blocks, Honorable Speaker, SADC, EAC, COMESA, all these regional bodies, Honorable Speaker, seek to integrate. And as we have said with the EAC partner states, we are not just widening, deepening, and tightening our cooperation within the East African region, but we seek to deepen, widen, and tighten the integration of all these bodies under the African Union, under the leadership of Yusuf Mohammed, but also with the support of Pan-Africanists and great leaders like Raila Odinga. And of course, the able leadership of President William Ruto, who is the chairperson of the EAC, East African Community, Honorable Speaker, and has a role in the reform agenda of the African Union. And we look forward to working together with Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the chairperson Mohamed Yusuf, and President William Ruto as we seek to reform the African Union. And I want to believe, Honorable Speaker, under the leadership of President William Ruto and these two other great leaders, AU will be reformed into a body or an organization that addresses the needs and aspirations of all African people, Honorable Speaker, so that when we speak as one people. Honorable Speaker, some years back, Africa was seen as that dark continent of want and poverty. Today, the world over, everybody appreciates that Africa is the continent of the future, the present and the future. The resources, the expertise we have in this continent, the human capital we have in this continent, Honorable Speaker, I will not be surprised if in the years to come, we will see, as we have seen great African leaders like Barack Obama leading countries as big and as powerful as the United States of America, Honorable Speaker. We have seen many Kenyans today, including the young lady from Nyamira, who is now a senator in one of the state assemblies in the US. We have seen Kenyans of Somali origin become congressmen and women in the US, become senators in the US, Honorable Speaker, because Africa is the future of the world. Honorable Speaker, with the resources that we have in human capital, with an aging population in the Americas, in the West, in Asia, and the Far East, Honorable Speaker, and with our emerging and very productive and very well-educated youth, we are here to conquer the world. And we can only conquer the world under the able leadership of leaders like Raila Amolo Odinga, with his Pan-African spirit, with the able guidance of leaders like Mohamed Yusuf, who is now our chairperson, and with the support of all African presidents, Honorable Speaker. And we must respect these presidents, Honorable Speaker. And in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, as I move this motion and ask the leader of minority to second, allow me also to use this opportunity to express the disgust of this House on the actions and the words of one of us, the member for Juja, the Honorable Koimburi. And Honorable Speaker, as much as the police have taken action, and I do hope they will be able to charge the member for Juja, Honorable Speaker, even within our own standing orders, we have put it that you cannot disparage or even discuss a foreign president, especially a president of a foreign country. For the member for Juja to have uttered the unfortunate and careless words that he uttered over the weekend. And shamelessly, Honorable Speaker, in a church, on a pulpit, saying that other African leaders were being bribed, Honorable Speaker. The member for Juja should know that Prime Minister Raila Odinga did not run for chairmanship of AU under the instigation of William Ruto. Prime Minister Raila Odinga chose to run as chairperson of AUC, of the African Union Commission, on his own volition, because he is a Kenyan and an African statesman who deserved that position. President William Ruto did not choose to support Prime Minister Raila Odinga because he was his competitor in the last elections, or because they have served in ODM together. You know, President William Ruto is a founder member of ODM. He chose to support Prime Minister Raila Odinga as a deserving Kenyan and African statesman. The presidents, many presidents who voted for Raila Odinga to be chairperson, did not do it at the instigation or because they were influenced by anybody. Honorable Speaker, we must at the same time express our disgust by the actions of this member of parliament who claimed that the Republic of Kenya had spent 13 billion shillings. From where? Money that we have not appropriated, Honorable Speaker. But you know, Honorable Speaker, there are some of these members of parliament who sit here. Unfortunately, this member is even never in the house. So he doesn't even understand how money is appropriated. He's probably in a police station now. I don't know where he is and I don't care. I hear someone asking me, Honorable Speaker, where he is. Honorable Speaker, I want to propose the member for Juja must be named for this house because it is a bad habit he has formed. A very bad habit. You will recall last year, the same member, when members voted for the finance bill, yes, he claimed that they were being paid, I think, 200,000 shillings to vote for the finance bill. This 2 million shillings. 2 million shillings. He came here, stood there and apologized, Honorable Speaker. In the House, out of our own magnanimity, we chose to forgive him. Yes. Now he's repeated. When the impeachment motion came, he then went again to claim in some funeral somewhere where, you know, he's fond of following some other man there in funerals. He went to some funeral and claimed that members again were paid during the impeachment motion. Over 280 members, 282 members who voted in the impeachment motion, he claimed they were being paid. And he mentions figures from his head. And I see the person he follows in funerals repeating the same things. And that's how you know birds of a feather flock together. Honorable Speaker, now he has moved from members of parliament on the finance bill, impeachment motion, to heads of state of friendly countries. We cannot and we must not allow that kind of habit to take root in this house, and we must take action. And I want to invite us. Somebody must move a motion or should move a motion to name this member. So that tomorrow, this is what makes this house, Honorable Speaker, be treated with a lot of contempt and indignity because of the things that we say, not now of just our house. We have taken it outside to speak, say disparaging things about our country, disparaging things about presidents and heads of state and nations of other friendly nations, friends of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. How do you think those friends of ours who supported Prime Minister Raila Odinga would feel if they had their heads of state were being paid to vote? You know, Honorable Speaker, it is so annoying. I want to end it there, but we must name this member. We must. Because if we don't, he will make it a habit. Tomorrow, he will make all manner of allegations against any one of us here or against the president. And you know, because they have made it a sport to move around the country in funerals, insulting the president. And I hear they call themselves, I heard themselves calling them Itungati. Honorable Speaker, Itungati in French means people who have given themselves, heroes who have given themselves their time, their resources, their time and energy for the sake of the nation. But if you find yourself following a man in funerals and wherever you follow that man and calling yourself Itungati, you are not a Itungati, you are a slave to a man. Those who are following, those who are slaves, they are not Itungatis. and lost slaves who are now disparaging heads of nations of Africa. Shame on them, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move and request the leader of minority, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, my good friend, to second this motion to appreciate the government of Kenya, His Excellency the President, His Excellency former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion that has been moved by the leader, Majority Leader, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable William Samoei Ruto, for his efforts and for his immense contribution towards the campaign of our Kenyan candidate in the African Union Commission chairmanship contest, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President of this country and his government has done everything possible to campaign, to lobby, and to do everything possible to make sure that we win in this contest, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it was not a secret that the President visited African capitals and met presidents to lobby and campaign for our Kenyan candidate, Mr. Speaker, and at the same time also received presidents in this country, Mr. Speaker, to talk to them and tell them that we have the best candidate in the contest. Mr. Speaker, we will not forget that. As a party, ODM party, as people, Mr. Speaker, we will remind everyone who wants to forget that the President campaigned and lobbied for our candidate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also I want to thank the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Mr. Speaker, for stepping out, because, Mr. Speaker, it requires a lot of courage, Mr. Speaker, and determination to come out and say that I want to represent my country at a very high level, Mr. Speaker, of the African Union. Many Kenyans will want, Mr. Speaker, to contest for that kind of position, but it requires courage. It requires somebody who has the stamina, Mr. Speaker, to show and to come out and say that I want to run for this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this country could not have a better candidate than him, because his credentials are known, Mr. Speaker. And he has served the African Union, Mr. Speaker, at the level of High Representative on Infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, before, for a period of, I think, 3 years. And he had performed exemplarily very well. And he had done a good job. And, Mr. Speaker, he had all the credentials as a Pan-Africanist to contest for that high office, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in an election contest, there must be a winner and there must be a loser. And you can also go on a draw. Mr. Speaker, it is not easy to raise the confidence of over 20 presidents of a country, Mr. Speaker. You have seen the first round, he got 22 votes. Those are 22 countries that have faith and confidence in the candidature of Honorable Raila Odinga, Mr. Speaker. Many of us, if we were to contest, we might not even get 2 presidents or 3, Mr. Speaker, or even one vote of a president, Mr. Speaker. But he could manage to raise those numbers because he's a Pan-Africanist, he's known in this continent, and he has done and participated in many things affecting this country, Mr. Speaker, in solving them. Mr. Speaker, the election went as it went. Even when he was going for the election, his last speech at Bomas of Kenya, in a conference that was held by the ODM party, he said he'll be very happy if he wins, and in the event he loses, he has a home to come back to, and life continues as usual, and he will do his things, his business, and other things that he normally does. But, Mr. Speaker, what has shocked me as a Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, and up to now I am still in shock, is not the loss that we had in Addis Ababa. Mr. Speaker, what has shocked me is that the celebration that happened in some parts of our country after we lost that election, Mr. Speaker. This was not a Kenyan contest, Mr. Speaker. Some of the people who are celebrating are keeping now busy the majority leader here. Can they sit down so that they can hear what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker.
Order, Wamaoa and...
These are some of the people who are celebrating. She celebrated, but that is fine. Because in a contest you cannot...
Order, Wamaoa, you cannot cross the aisle like that.
Mr. Speaker...
It's immaterial what she wants to do.
Mr. Speaker...
Go on.
Kenyans knew very well that this is not an election that is going to happen within the country. It's not an election that is normally announced at Bomas of Kenya. This was an election that was happening at the African Union. And some of the Kenyans became so unpatriotic and supporting a candidate against Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and even campaigning for him openly in the social media, in all kind of sphere, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I cannot be so unpatriotic. If today a Kenyan of any color, any race, any religion, any creed comes out to contest for an international position, Mr. Speaker, I will support. In the spirit of being a Kenyan, Mr. Speaker. That's all. The first thing that we need to look at is being a Kenyan. Not from the community you come from, not from your color, not from your religion, not from anything. Mr. Speaker, how unpatriotic can some Kenyans be that they fought the Right Honorable Prime Minister for 1 year he has been campaigning. And after losing, they celebrated. We shall revisit that, I can assure you. We will revisit that one. It will not go. We will revisit at the right time. We will also have our day to laugh and to celebrate, Mr. Speaker. And it's not very far, it is coming, Mr. Speaker. It's not very far. You can take that to the bank, and I will remind you the day I'm celebrating that you also celebrated your day. This is my day. Inshallah. Bismillah al-Karim. Mr. Speaker, I also want to congratulate the winner. In a contest, someone must win. And a country that is who is our neighbor in the same region, the Eastern African region, won the election. So we have every reason to celebrate also and to congratulate them, Mr. Speaker, because in a contest we expected to have a winner and a loser. But we expected ourselves to win, but we did not win. So we cannot be so losers. We say there are many things that happened. I was in Addis Ababa, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to talk about them now, but that is part of the election. You don't have to complain. You don't have to begrudge anyone. That is normal. All of us defeated someone by being in this house, Mr. Speaker. All of us defeated someone by being in this house, Mr. Speaker. We had opponents, Mr. Speaker, in the election. Even you, to be elected as a speaker, you had opponents. We had a candidate, Azimio, and Kwanza proposed you, and you got the highest votes. And now today you are presiding over here as our speaker. You are a speaker for all of us. We are not saying, oh, we have lost, now another speaker must sit next to you, the one who lost to you. We cannot work like that. So, Mr. Speaker, in a contest, it goes that way. But I want Kenyans to get experience out of this contest, because this is not going to be the last time a Kenyan is going to contest for an international job. And I want to encourage the government of the Republic of Kenya to propose and support Kenyans who are qualified to go for international positions, Mr. Speaker. The UN Secretary General job is coming up in the next year, Mr. Speaker. If there's a Kenyan who feels he's qualified to become the Secretary General of the UN, he should go for it. And Kenyans will support. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It doesn't matter. Go for it. So, Mr. Speaker, many countries in this region have done very well, much better than our country, in terms of positioning their people in this multilateral organization, Mr. Speaker. We have not done very well as a country in that sphere, Mr. Speaker. We have to improve our socks and make sure that a lot of Kenyans, even the ones who are celebrating, instead of holding people in villages, in somewhere there in Nyeri, release them, let them go for these international positions if they are qualified. Don't hold people there buying them uji every day, and they are qualified, they have papers, they have masters, they have degrees, everything. Take them out, Mr. Speaker. Wamunyoro is not a church. Unless it's another Shakahola place, where people now go there and they want to die there inside there. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say that I have thanked the President on behalf of my party, on behalf of my constituency, and on behalf of myself, for showing leadership as our president and supporting the candidature of our party leader. I want to also congratulate my party leader. He's a strong man. Very strong man, Mr. Speaker. And he always has a second chance. If there is any other position to serve in the continent, he will be available. In the world, everywhere, Mr. Speaker, he has been available, Mr. Speaker. He has served the African Union before, and we will continue supporting him. And he's my leader, and we will make sure that we provide our services to the people of this country and to the people of this country, Mr. Speaker, in whichever level we can, in whichever capacity that we can. There are people who thought that this contest was political. They thought that, oh, this is a contest now, or if we lose, ODM will get annoyed. I don't know, annoyed of what? If there are people we should be annoyed with, it should be Djibouti, the people who took our cup. Yeah, why should we be annoyed with somebody who was not contesting against us? We should be annoyed with the people who defeated us. And we are not annoyed with them also. We are congratulating them for doing a good job. Because African Union belongs to all of us. As a nation, we are part of the African Union. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to second and warn the naysayers that you should avoid that kind of thing going forward in future. Mr. Speaker, because if you are going to oppose a Kenyan because of his political affiliation, because of domestic issues, it's a very primitive way of looking at things. And I know some of the people, why we impeach them also, it was not in the impeachment paper, but it's primitivity. Some of them are very primitive people. Village mentality. You know, people want to go to international organizations. Instead of supporting them, you are judging them on the basis of what happens in a village, Mr. Speaker. I'm very sad about that. I did not expect people to celebrate the loss of a Kenyan in an international contest. It's a shame. Whichever you are, you cannot celebrate the loss of a Kenyan in an international contest. I repeat again. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Now, if our athlete loses in a contest now, in the New York Marathon or in the London Marathon, you expect me to celebrate? No. Because it's not from my community? It's not from my region? It's not from my religion? It's not from my village? It's not from my what? Shame on you. Shame. And those people who did that must desist. And never to repeat that. I must say that on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker. Because this is where we address issues of concern to the people. And that is an issue of high concern to the people, Mr. Speaker. When we are telling Kenyans that you cannot run in any contest outside Kenya. In the first place, even if we run here in Kenya, they will not vote for us, I know. We have taken very serious that matter, and we don't want it to happen in our country again. We want to support our people. We want to support our Kenyans, wherever they are. That is why we impeach certain people, because they were telling us we are not shareholders of this country. That's what they told us. We have not forgotten. They told us that you are not shareholders in this country. I don't know when the shareholding certificate was issued in this country. At independence, everyone was there. You should call for annual general meetings so that we know which shares we have. So you get impeached on that kind of nonsense and you continue celebrating again the loss of a Kenyan in an international contest. We will stand firm. We will hold our head high. We have not lost anything. We have, in the contrary, we have gained because we have registered the name of Kenya in the international arena, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And I urge all members to support and to register their thanks, especially to the President and to the former Prime Minister who put his line or his head on the line, Mr. Speaker, for Kenyans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable members, I'll now propose the question, which is that recalling that the African Union, the successor of the Organization of African Unity, or AU, was launched in 2002 as a continental body consisting of the 55 member states that make up the countries of the African continent, with a vision of creating an integral, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena, aware that the African Union Commission, AUC, established as the secretariat responsible for the day-to-day operations and activities of the AU, is headed by the chairperson elected by heads of state and governments from member states. Recalling that on 27th February 2024, Kenya formally announced that the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, will be vying for the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC, building on his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from 2018 to 2023, appreciating that in recognition of the immense Pan-African ideals embodied in the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, his dedication and leadership in advancing the cause of the African continent through various initiatives and positions held over the years, including his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from 2018 to 2023, His Excellency the President endorsed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as Kenya's candidate for the chairperson of the African Union Commission, noting that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga's candidacy for the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission was not only his personal ambition, but also a symbol of Kenya's deep commitment to the goals of the African Union and its desire to actively participate in shaping the continent's future. Commending the government of Kenya, led by His Excellency the President, for the Pan-African campaign in support of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, reinforced by Kenya's commitment to regional and continental integration and cooperation, and guided by Kenya's foreign policy. Further commending the remarkable achievement by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for emerging the run-up in the election of the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15th February 2025, recognizing the need to sustain Kenya's growing prominence on the continental stage and advocacy for a more united, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa, in resonance with the aspirations of millions of Africans who seek to see the continent empowered to chart its own course in the global arena. Now, therefore, this House records its thanks to His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, CGH, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, for endorsing the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, as Kenya's candidate for the election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC, and for coordinating the continental campaign in support of his candidacy. 2, expresses his profound thanks to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, for demonstrating his unwavering commitment to the service of Africa by offering himself as Kenya's candidate for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, for his leadership in advancing Pan-African unity, for his dedication to the development and integration of the African continent, and for his distinguished attempt to the election in which he emerged as the runner-up. And 3, records his congratulations to His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf on his election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15th February 2025. Jared Okello.
Honorable Speaker, from the outset, let me thank you for the opportunity and also bring to the attention of the House, Honorable Speaker, that in the course of that election, I was nominated to be the chief agent in the closed auditorium, Honorable Speaker. And as the chief agent, Honorable Speaker, in a very controlled, heavily guarded compound, controlled numbers of people getting in and out, I was privileged to sit with our President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, alongside a few members representing the Republic of Kenya, during that election, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to specifically thank the President of this country, Honorable Speaker. It is seldom that a person whom you have subjected yourself to a very fierce contest would come back to lift your hands and put you or try to put you into a position that you are garnering for, Honorable Speaker. The President of the Republic of Kenya went beyond the call of duty, even launching the candidature of Right Honorable Raila Odinga in State House in the Republic of Kenya, notwithstanding the fact that in 2022, they were fierce challengers, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, history will judge Dr. William Samoei Ruto very positively going into the future. And I come from a community, Honorable Speaker, that will never forget those who do good to it. Perhaps the only community, Honorable Speaker, and I'm very proud to be hailing from that community, Honorable Speaker. As is the norm, many a times there is victory in defeat. And we left Addis Ababa together with Baba, with our heads high. And now the President, together with the Right Honorable Prime Minister, can embark on their duty of uniting this country. There is more work to be done here that there could have been work to be done in Addis Ababa. And therefore I join my brother, Honorable Junet, by saying that those who think this was a defeat against Baba are in for a rude shock, Honorable Speaker. The mission to unite this country, regardless of where one comes from, is a journey that we can never drop. And therefore, as Baba comes back to join hands with his brother, the President, those who celebrated much early will be shocked as we go into the future, Honorable Speaker. And Baba is going to give us more direction as to where we will go, both as a community and as the Republic of Kenya. In the auditorium, Honorable Speaker, there could be factors that played out, some of which we will not delve into, Honorable Speaker. But in that auditorium, if I counted correctly, there were less than 10 presidents who had stayed behind for that election. However, they were represented by their various ministers in charge of foreign affairs, Honorable Speaker. And I would be remiss not to make it clear that even the one who has been elected is a foreign minister of his country. And therefore, those who were given the task to vote on behalf of their leaders, Honorable Speaker, are his contemporaries, are his colleagues, are people that he has worked with in the Foreign Office. And because this was a secret ballot, it was secret to the extent, Honorable Speaker, that presidents and the voters were given empty papers, empty. There was no name. And they were expected to write those names and bring the papers to where we were to be counted, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, the speculation going around that people are castigating other countries for dropping the ball against us is not true, Honorable Speaker. It is so hard to tell who wrote what on which piece of paper, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, unless you know handwritings of all the presidents in Africa, you can never know who voted for who. But I can say unequivocally that apart from Kenya, there are 20 countries that stuck with Baba through and through, even as we went into the last batch of the voting process, Honorable Speaker. 20 countries out of 49 that were present in the auditorium is not an easy achievement, Honorable Speaker. They stuck with us to the letter, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we are very thankful to the entire African continent because Baba went all the way to the 7th round. And in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, he chose to withdraw himself in order to avoid a stalemate that would have ensued, Honorable Speaker. Only Baba can do that. Otherwise, the rest would have subjected themselves to rounds and rounds of elections that would have led to nowhere. And you remember, Honorable Speaker, when our South African sister, Dlamini Zuma, won, they went all the way to the 7th round. There was no ultimate winner. The election had to be suspended for 6 months. And in the intervening period, Mali had to be taken out because of the coup. So Baba, in the Pan-Africanist spirit, chose to withdraw himself, not to subject our African continent to a stalemate that was witnessed when Dlamini Zuma became chair. And Honorable Speaker, these are facts that will govern the elections of AUC going into the future. That certain times there is no point holding on and subjecting the whole continent into a stalemate. Only Baba did it, somebody else can be able to do it, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, a clarion call has been made by both the President and the Prime Minister, Honorable Speaker, that it is time we united our country first and then move to unite the African continent. Honorable Speaker, this is not a small journey. Uniting a country that has always been divided across ethnic, religious, and tribal lines, you need a Baba and you need President Ruto to have this country come together. You need both to bring this country come together. And the hyperbolic political temperatures that we have continued to see, when we have elections 2.5 years to come, must stop for the sake of this country. Honorable Speaker, we only have one country, and it is called the Republic of Kenya. If we destroy this, we have nowhere else to go to. If you go to the northeastern part, where we are playing good host to refugees who left their countries because of the circumstances of war, it is not something that you'd wish on anyone else, Honorable Speaker. The conditions that people live in those shanties is not something to write home about. And therefore, if there are people who are beating drums of war and are laughing at the top of their voices because Kenya has not succeeded, they do not belong to this country. And perhaps they do not understand the history of war and genocide that other countries have been subjected to, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, let us all in this house, as important as this house is to this country, rally behind both the President and the Prime Minister to bring about unity that shall withstand the test of times, Honorable Speaker. Finally, as my Bible, where I draw a lot of sailors, says, that my people suffer because of lack of knowledge. There are people who can laugh due to lack of knowledge. But sooner, that revelation shall come to pass, and this country will be reunited once and for all. And I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I think I will start first by thanking His Excellency, the President of the Republic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, this is a very important special motion. Honorable Speaker, I really wanted to have indulged you before my brother had started speaking, so that, and you had given instruction that by 6:22, then it will come. I wish maybe, Honorable Speaker, we could be given fewer minutes so that everybody can have an opportunity to contribute. Around 3 minutes, maybe. That, because, yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Can we do 3? 3 or 5? 3, 5. let's do 5. We see how well we do. Yes.
Honorable Speaker, I said, I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to speak on this. I first want to thank His Excellency the President for leading the candidature of the Kenyan candidate, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, with a spirited fight. I also appreciate those members who put in the support and acted as agents. Honorable Speaker, I want to first start by saying that it is important that we know that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga was not the candidate. Kenya was the candidate. That is what many Kenyans forgot. So any Kenyan who was against the candidature of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is an unpatriotic Kenyan, because it is very prestigious for your country to hold the position of chairperson. That position of chairperson is actually the symbol of continental unity in Africa. So it is the envy of every country to have a person from their country to hold that position of chairperson. So anyone who makes disparaging remarks is actually doing a disservice, not to the individual of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, but to us as a country, and must be frowned upon. It is also important because it seems like during this conversation, many Kenyans never understood the significance of that position of chairperson. When you have that position of chairperson as a country, you literally have the ability to be able to shape the economic and trade policies of the entire continent. You would be able to have the ability to champion the African Continental Free Trade, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, yes. And it's something that has been very difficult for us, for Africa to achieve. You will also be able to promote the unity of Africa, even in movement. You see that today, to go to an African country, within Africa, I have to get a visa. Today, you go to the EU, if you have an EU visa, you can practically traverse the entire EU without any border stop, and so can the trade movement also happen like that. So it is upon us as Africa and as Kenyans that we were in an enviable position, that we almost clinched that position of chairperson, where we'd be able as a country to champion the free movement of Africans within Africa. Because we must remind ourselves that visas were created by the global north to keep off Africans or the global south from the global north. But today, within Africa, we actually have visas to keep ourselves out of it. We must continue to say that as Kenya, as a country, we pledge that we shall continue to try and promote ourselves to get that position of chairperson of the African Union. And not just that position. There are many other positions that are available in the UN and other international bodies where Kenya can showcase itself. So I call upon all Kenyans that when these positions do arise and we have a Kenyan candidate, that candidate is not an individual candidate but a national candidate. And it's upon us to support them throughout and be able to ensure that the country gets that particular seat. I saw the joy of Germany when van der Leyen became president of the European Commission. And that country took great pride in it. I want to see a situation where, as Kenyans, we become more patriotic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to congratulate Baba, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, for the good work that he did at the African Union. Mr. Speaker, I've just finished reading a book called Ikigai that talks about the Japanese secret to a long life. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that they talk about that contributes to a long life is never retiring. And Mr. Speaker, I'm never retiring. and that you never retire when you have discovered your ikigai, which is your purpose for living. Very few people in life discover their purpose in life. One of them is Honorable Raila Odinga. And his purpose in life is service to humanity. It doesn't matter how much people want to pour in dirt on him. Younger generations who do not know what he has done over the years, you can never take away his ikigai. And I would want to encourage those who are busy talking a lot of nonsense around him, find your own purpose in life and live it fully and never retire. Because when you find your purpose in life, Mr. Speaker, you are always happy regardless of circumstances. So that's why even whether he wins or loses, it doesn't matter. Mr. Speaker, there are many of us at 20 years or 30 or 40, 50 who will not be brave enough to go for such a position. Can you imagine a person who at 80 years is willing to dare out and go for such a position? Whether he wins or not does not matter. It is inspirational enough that at that age he's gone out there. But I want to also congratulate and thank His Excellency President William Ruto for the work that he has done for Honorable Raila Odinga in this regard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we went there, I went very cautiously optimistic. Not because I had less faith in the capabilities of Honorable Raila Odinga, but as a person who has worked in the Pan-African region with the Pan-African Parliament and other fora, Mr. Speaker, I understand the geopolitics very well, the issues of regional blocks, language blocks, amongst other issues, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes they come into play, including prevailing circumstances in the region. They sometimes come into play. Mr. Speaker, the other issues, including the fact that Mr. Honorable Raila Odinga was a towering figure that some people may have found a bit intimidating. His strength, as I've seen one writer say, may have been his weakness because some people can't deal with strong characters. Mr. Speaker, it is also an opportunity for the AU to introspect. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry, I see you have changed. Madam Speaker, it's an opportunity for the AU to introspect because the issues of equity keep coming up and barriers based on language, religion, or other factors always keep coming up. The way they've tried to solve it in Pan-African Parliament is the way they need to solve it also at that level. Madam Speaker, I would also want to say that I've seen a narrative that people are trying to sell, that Raila always loses. Honorable Raila was a member of Langata for many years. Yes. Madam Speaker, he even resigned his position and went for by-election and won. And he has served as Prime Minister. And the one who is saying Raila would never amount to, will never win anything, has never even won a village elder position. And will never win a village elder position. So really, be factual and wish your fellow Kenyan well is when God will bless you. Madam Speaker, there are many Sanballats and Tobiases in this country. They are very noisy and even noisier than the people who have goodwill for this country. But I want to say that I was impressed by the equally high number of Kenyans who came to Ethiopia using their own resources. People came in buses, in bicycles, by air, and by all means. And they were all tribes, Madam Speaker. My time is up. I want to also thank them and say God works in mysterious ways. What you thought was going to work for ill has actually worked for good. We were fighting last week. We are now sitting calmly as a minority, Madam Speaker.